Okay, right, welcome. Thanks all for joining this evening's meeting. We're gathering as the Neath Talbot Local Food Partnership and really glad to come together after a couple of months to kick off a new season of activity and establish those connections across Neath Talbot's food system. So welcome to those of you who've been along to meetings of the partnership before and to those of you who are joining for the first time. My name's Dawn and I'm here on behalf of For the Region, and For the Region, which is a community interest company operating across the 4 counties of our region here in South West Wales. But we are the hosts of the Neath Talbot Food Partnership, which is its own organisation dedicated to strengthening connections and collaboration across the Neath Talbot food system in all its guises. And so the aspiration of the partnership is to connect businesses in the food sector, local farmers and producers, as well as third sector organisations and public sector organisations and projects, as well as community organisations, community groups, local people who are passionate about food and particularly sustainable food. So in other words, the whole local and sustainable food system or movement to provide a platform for us to collaborate, for us to come up with our shared priorities and find ways of working together that support and strengthen local and sustainable food across the county. These partnerships have been started in all the counties across Wales with some support from Welsh Government, and the aspiration is to create a self-sustaining group that really responds to and addresses the needs and priorities of local people, businesses and organisations. So you guys are all here because you share that passion for supporting local sustainable food, and tonight we're going to talk through a number of things, including our kind of upcoming planned activities over the next 6 months, which includes what we might plan to do at the Neath Food and Drink Festival in early October, how we might spend some of the capital funding that's been made available for the food partnership, not very much capital spending, but some, and our 5-year sort of strategy, which is in draft form. The draft Neath Talbot cross-sector food strategy is in draft form, and we'd love to discuss that this evening and get feedback and input into that. And this evening's meeting is also an opportunity for us to share updates amongst ourselves in the room. And so if you have a business or an organisation or a project ongoing that is related in some way to our local food system, we would love for you to share information and update the group about that. So it should be a useful meeting and certainly an interactive discussion. So thank you for coming along, and we really do value the input of everyone, and hopefully you'll find the meeting interesting and useful as well. So where we were hoping to start the call, I think, is in a round of introductions or a little hello from everybody. But what we were going to ask is that you could use that opportunity to share an update or a perspective. You might share something you're already doing or a current project or a little bit of information about your business or your organisation, or what you think are the key opportunities, priorities or concerns that this group should seek to address. So really it's your sort of 1 or 2 minutes on the microphone to just kick off the conversation with your perspective, and we'll value any sort of input from everybody around the room. So if it's all right with you, I will call on you one at a time to introduce yourself and share a few thoughts with us. And that will get us off to a good start, and then we'll have a look at the food strategy and some other items on the agenda. So I'll start by calling on my colleague Zoe. Perhaps you can say a few words to kick us off, Zoe.
Evening, everybody. I'm Zoe Antrobus. Delighted to be hosting the Neath Talbot Food Partnership again with you all. Apologies again for Zoom link mix-ups this evening. Yeah, we're really excited to hearing what you guys, what suggestions that you have for the food partnership going forward. I'm sure after the energy that we created last year, we're really excited to take it forward again. Thanks.
Thanks, Zoe. Laura, can I come to you next?
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Webley. I'm the Town Centres Manager for Neath Talbot Council. We oversee 4 town centres, which are Neath, Gleneath, Pontardawe and Talbot. So we work closely with lots of different businesses across the borough. And we also arrange and organise the Neath Food and Drink Festival, which we're planning as we currently speak, and we're working to all the stall holders for this year. So thank you.
Laura, just share the dates of the Neath Food and Drink Festival this year.
It takes place on Friday the 5th and Saturday the 6th of October. So it's always a really good event, and lots of our stall holders tend to sell out, and I see a few faces in the meeting who will be attending this year as well. So
yeah, great, that's exciting. So 5th and 6th of October in Neath Town Centre, so we will be there, so make sure that date is in all of your calendars. Claire, Rain, can I come to you next to say hello?
Hiya. I'm Claire. I'm the Secretary of Glantower Riverside Park. We are a park just north of Pontardawe Town Centre, and we have a woodland garden, which is a few years old now. At the moment, we're gradually expanding. It's run by volunteers largely. And at the moment, we're hoping to expand onto a more visible part of the park. So our woodland garden's a little hidden and a little shady at the moment. It's not great for growing certain kinds of vegetables. So we've recently had a grant for some raised beds, which we're hoping to put in a sunnier area near the food forest. And we're hoping to involve our schools groups a little bit more this year, and it's more accessible. So we're expanding a little bit. We also recently hosted the Green Gathering in Pontardawe, so we've got connections with a few different groups in the area.
Super, yeah, thank you, Claire. Thanks for that. And can I come to Lisa Evans from Baglan Bakery?
Trying to work out how to unmute myself. Yeah, so I'm Lisa Evans, so from Baglan Bakery and Catering. So from a very practical perspective, I suppose I'm bringing the knowledge of the local supply chain in terms of our procurement as a business. I am particularly keen to and interested in terms of the strategy and the whole scaling up of the supply of local produce. I find it very difficult to access as a business and to know about where our produce is coming from. I'm very, very keen for that to become increasingly local. And the other part of the strategy that I'm also particularly interested in is the partnering with regional wholesalers and distributors. You know, I think if we could encourage and enable more local people to grow, yeah, I think it would become such a great opportunity for people who are procuring those sorts of supplies locally, and to potentially support the community farms and things by perhaps funding some of that, or at least paying for that food grown locally, which could in turn possibly create job opportunities at those sorts of places. So yeah, just really keen to get involved.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Lisa. And absolutely, I think if we can connect the dots between those local businesses that want to buy local produce, and then figure out how we get more local produce being grown and being made in the area, and models like community supported agriculture and other interesting and innovative approaches to get farmers back into fruit and vegetable growing locally, as well as all the value add from that. So yeah, lots to do. Thanks for being here. Nicola, can I come to you next?
Hi there. You'll have to bear with me because my internet keeps cutting in and out. So I have a micro bakery at home, and I really enjoy using organic ingredients that are bought directly from farmers. So we get our eggs from Dan Lydiat's farm, and we are constantly trying to buy fruit, and our supply chain keeps breaking down, unfortunately. Even if we couldn't get hold of organic fruit and veg locally, we would still be interested in having local fruit and veg, if it was organic or not. The difficulties, it comes in when we need to have high volume of fruit and veg, and sometimes the farmers can't actually meet that need. So networking, trying to find out who can supply us, that would be great for us. With regards to news, we're trading at the Royal Welsh Show next week, which I can't believe, and we've also entered into the Great Taste Awards again this year, and hoping to get an award for our produce again. So yes, strengthening the food economy and trying our best to source. A few farmers would be great. Things like carrots, we struggle to get in high volumes. Strawberries, blueberries, anything like that we'd be really interested in getting hold of. But unfortunately, when you are asking for 20-30 kilos at a time, they just can't meet the need.
Yeah, but that is the sort of challenge that we want to address, isn't it? And, you know, connecting a business like yours with potential producers, but that may be a long-term game. But thanks so much for being here, and that's exciting. You must be busy baking then. You'll be busy before the Royal Welsh. Yeah, good. That's exciting. Thanks for being here, Nicola. Can I come to Anna next? Hi Anna, thanks for being here.
Hello. Hiya, I'm Anna from Canolfan Mardi. We're an organisation that caters for a lot of different services, transport, childcare, food hub, cafe, community cafe, but growing, obviously, being the main interest here, and our food production with our boxes. One of our sites is growing quite a lot of things at the moment, and we've just had an open day for it last weekend. So here, you know, as usual, just to gain more information, more knowledge. I'm quite new to the role as well. So just about all these links and community links and any advice or guidance anyone can offer, really. So we're just getting there now with our growing, starting to harvest things. And it's lovely to see all of these things going into our food boxes in our food hub on Fridays. But again, happy to make links with people and join up the dots, really, isn't it? With everything local going on. So yeah,
thanks Anna, good to have you on the call. And we were going to ask you about your open day. That was at Banwen, I think, this weekend.
It was just Saturday gone. It was really lovely, very pleasant. We held it for a few hours, and we had just a steady flow of people, you know, for our little community. I think we nearly hit about 40 people really visiting, all interested in the garden. Some had been previously, some had not. Interested to see what we were growing. We were harvesting things as people were there, got adults involved, children, so just a real interest spiked from that, you know. We got some solar up and running in the garden, which also was quite exciting for us all to see, because literally it is in the middle of the field. So we got a laptop charging and everything, just to make it a bit of fun really for everyone, to see what potential could be. But that's eventually to run our water pumps for the watering system. But yeah, lots going on, lots of lovely food and lovely company, like-minded people. So it was really lovely.
Yeah, great work. And I think it's your colleague Clive that we've connected with.
My colleague is Sonia on the call.
Oh, Sonia on the call. I
Yeah.
may be getting confused.
Charlie, I think it was
Charles.
Oh,
Charles.
Charles.
Yeah, we've met before, yeah.
Yeah, we've got Charles, and yeah, Charles is
Yeah.
the manager. Yeah, on the site.
Growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And as you say, flagging up that connection between the community growing, but then also getting that into the food hub boxes
Yeah.
and that real
Yeah,
community engagement.
it's a great
with
link
healthy
to see
food.
and have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Super, thanks for being here. Neil Carter, can I come to you next? Say hello.
Hi everyone. I'm just here as not as a professional, but just as a resident interested in the environment and all that. Mostly about the welfare of animal welfare and plant welfare, environmentalism, that sort of thing. But in a practical sense, I'm also an allotment holder. So yeah, health, my own personal health and all that is third on that list.
Oh, great. And where's your allotment, Neil?
Do you know Caddixton at all? Neath Golf Course on just outside, just north of Neath. Yeah. Sort of looking at the valley on the left hand side. It's up there overlooking towards Torna, opposite Torna.
Oh, yeah.
It's on the hill road. It's a disastrous allotment because it's northeast facing and surrounded by ancient woodland. So I've got an infinite supply of slugs and weeds. I don't grow anything up there. I stop things from growing.
There's been a challenging year for slugs as well.
Oh, yeah. Every year is challenging.
Yeah, yeah. We've talked before around this table about the huge wealth of knowledge and passion for local food that exists across allotment sites across the county, and how we can kind of leverage that into more community engagement. We'd love to see a community growing space in every village, in every community, but there's a real shortage of skills potentially in the community, and a lot of those skills are on the allotments. So yeah, glad you're with us.
I could grow Nicola a load of black currants and red currants, but the blackbirds take them all.
Oh yeah,
I haven't got the heart to net them, so I let the blackbirds take them.
So you're feeding the wildlife.
Yeah.
Oh well, thanks for joining the call, Neil. Nice to meet you. Martin, can I come to you next?
Hello. Yeah, I'm also here as a resident too, essentially, at this time. I have in the last few years spent a couple of years being a volunteer at Kaitan, the CSA on Gower, and picked up some skills from there, which has been good, and awareness of a lot of what's been going on locally. And the reason I've not been there recently, unfortunately, is because I've had to move. But it does mean I've got my own place now, and I'm looking to start growing food in my own place. So I've got completely bare back garden at the moment, which I got a chance to start afresh with, which is good. I can get some money for it and get some time. But essentially, recently I've been attending. There's been the Green Spaces section of the Environment Centre at Swansea. Ollie and Paul, who work for the Environment Centre, have been running like a 4-month course, so like two workshops every month for the last 4 months on community green spaces. So the last 2 sessions recently were designing your green space and the future of your green space. So that's been really good about setting them up and running them and getting community groups together and how do you keep a group going and that kind of thing. So that's been really good. So, and sort of permaculture principles, all that kind of thing. So I'm just kind of like trying to find my space, my place really, into how I can fit in and help out locally in this sort of topic, essentially.
Oh, good to have you on the call. Thanks
Yes.
Thanks for being here. And so you're looking to get involved in and or potentially help support the startup of more community growing spaces.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to Kaitan to start with, and then if I can help support another group getting started, or perhaps even start a group of my own, then that'd be good.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Kaitan, most of you on the call may be familiar with Kaitan CSA. It's a community supported agriculture veg box scheme on Gower. But Tom O'Kane, who is one of the founders of that project, is now making himself available as a kind of trainer and support to see the CSA movement grow. We're not aware, I don't think we're aware of any community supported agriculture project in Neath Talbot at the moment. If anyone else is aware, let me know. But it's an interesting model and might be something that farmers locally might consider. And obviously farmer engagement is potentially one of the things we want to look at in this group. So all the threads connect, there's lots of things to talk about.
Yeah, we're lucky in Swansea to have it's like 4 or 5 CSAs now. Because if you're not aware, Kaitan spawned Big Meadow over at Llangennith Way. There's a CSA at Something Good. There's a new one at Caerfelen in Morriston, and then completely separately, one started up at Black Hills CSA over near Swansea Airport. So we're very lucky.
Yeah, I think Swansea is one of the places with the most CSAs in the UK or something. Yeah. Great. Chloe, would you like to say hello?
Hiya. Hi.
Hi.
Hiya. Yeah, me and Amy, we both work in Resolving building blocks, and they have a food bank there. So we distribute food parcels around like Neath Talbot and like in the Resolving area as well. The days that we deliver them, deliver and collect is on a Tuesday and a Friday. And we have noticed like we do have donations from like the public, but they have been like going like down, I think, since like the cost of living and like the food prices have gone up. So like people are like struggling already with like food prices. So then to help out in like food banks then is becoming more and more difficult. But yeah, other than that, it's going really well. We also have like a nice space like in the garden area in building blocks because we're a crash and all, so we're like a childcare setting. So I think it'd be nice maybe if we could have like, like some like where they can like grow like fruit and veg and stuff in the garden with the children. So like to teach them like about how like beneficial like growing your own produce is. And I think the children would really enjoy that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And there are some really nice examples probably for you to go and have a look at and connect with others, either in primary schools or other settings, and how growing spaces are, as you say, really beneficial for the kids and quite a nice project. And Jessie is on the call, and Jessie, that is your area of expertise, I think, so I'll call on you next. Would you like to say hello?
Hi everyone, I'm just juggling a bit of childcare and other things, so I'm sorry I've not been on, but I've been listening.
Oh, you've got balloons,
yeah,
you're
so
celebrating something.
Yeah, so my name is Jessie Kidd. I work for Kaitan CSA as the education officer. So my remit is to go out to schools and communities and teach them about regenerative agriculture, climate change, pollination, how to grow your own, etc., etc. And I came aware of your lovely food partnership because I was asked to come and support some of the schools that were awarded some funding. I'm really interested. I haven't caught up with any of them, Dawn. I don't know if they've done what they've said. It would be really interesting to see how they're doing and have some sort of catch up with them, because some of them really didn't know a great deal at all. So it'd be wonderful to see where they are on that growing journey because it takes years in reality. Sort of just learn year on year on year. So I work all the way across Swansea. I'm currently working quite a lot at Craigfeilin Park, so I'm linking in with the new CSA Caerfelen because they don't have an education officer. And yeah, we're seeing just amazing developments up there in that school, particularly with children who need sort of an alternative curriculum, shall we say, that the sort of, the everyday
everyday normative school curriculum doesn't quite suit, although obviously the curriculum has changed and it has opened up lots of opportunities now to engage people in very different ways, in the ways that they need it. But I suppose I'm just here to see how everyone's doing, really. You know, obviously I'm based in Swansea, but I did that little bit of piece of work in Neath, which I absolutely loved, pootling around Neath. It was just stunning. It was like being on holiday. And I'd love to be involved in anything that you do going forward if I can offer any sort of support or help or guidance. Or if anybody wanted visits to the farm, obviously we're a little bit further away, but you know, that's something that we can arrange. Or what I can do is just share reports of the work that I've previously done, just to give you ideas of how I did deliver different types of projects in schools and what we grew and what worked and what really didn't work. You know, because I've been working for Kaitan for 5 years now. Did some growing beforehand, but I came in as a sort of environmental education teacher. So I've been on a 5-year growing journey personally as well now. And someone who mentioned slugs earlier this year, yes, it has been horrendous. So part of my remit is to teach about climate change as well. And doing that through food is a really sort of gentle and easy avenue to approach that really big, quite scary topic. And actually, food is an incredible way to have a really good impact on what's happening and how you can sort of be empowered and make these changes. And, you know, as people say, there's nothing more empowering than growing your own tomato, is it? You know, I had children today actually saying, oh, I hate these beans, I hate this, I don't eat that. And they were eating handfuls of the food we'd grown at school, and all I'd done was boil them. I didn't cook, I haven't really done anything to them, you know. And when we make soup in schools, you know, they talk about how children wouldn't eat this food, and they're eating it in droves, you know. They can't get enough, and it's mainly plant-based that I do, just because we talk about carbon footprint. And yeah, so I just think the work that you guys might be doing, just introducing people to the concept that you can grow food. It's not rocket science. It takes a little while to build some skills, obviously, but it's very achievable, and it's time to bring us back to growing, back to food. So I'll talk forever if you let me, but I'm here if you need me. If anyone wants to email me, I'll put my email in the chat
Thanks,
somewhere.
Jessie.
Because as you say, there isn't a CSA close to you guys, as far as I know.
No.
But yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, great to have you on the call, and lots of wisdom to share around engaging kids in growing and where their food comes from. So yeah, that's really great work. Thanks, Jessie. Right, I'm seeing who's here that we haven't heard from. We're still working our way through a little round of introductions and updates from people, businesses and organisations. Chris, I don't think we've heard from you yet.
Chris and Sarah Thomas, just to let you know.
Yeah. Chris Cundall.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks for that. Apologies, I was running late. I couldn't get to right to the beginning. But yeah, so I have joined a kind of wider food conversation with you guys before. Really excited that, you know, this NPT partnership has been formed. The reason being is that my family runs an organic artisan bakery in Neath town centre. It's called Rosa's Bakery. And we're also now in the process of setting up a delicatessen and organic grocery store in Neath town centre. So we're actually taking on quite an ambitious project. It's a large space. It's like 292 square meters. It's next to Cadno Lounge in Neath town centre. We haven't, by the way, full disclosure, we haven't kind of gone public on socials with all of this, so I'm kind of like telling you this in confidence. I'm happy for you to talk about it, but it's like, you know, we haven't announced it official just because there's a few, you know, T's to cross and I's to dot and whatnot. But we've had a huge show of support from the council in the project, because they've given us a full grant award under the local business priority fund, which is 250k going into the project from the council, which is absolutely superb. So yeah, it's a scary one because it's, you know, easily 4 times bigger than what we did, you know, just over a year ago with the bakery. But we've seen the appetite is there, and I'm really excited about this because, of course, yes, we run a business and we want to pay bills, etc. But you know, our kind of family ethos and our heart behind doing all of these ventures is very much because, you know, we've been on a kind of, I guess, a health learning journey ourselves of, you know, I'd say easily like over the past 20 years where, you know, we've cared about going back to, you know, preparing food from scratch, and you know, we've cared about buying organic as much as possible, you know, getting from, you know, local as possible too. You know, the decision that we took with the bakery to go organic and certify with the Soil Association was kind of like, even though that's it would be a lot easier for us not to do it, if I'm honest with you, because it adds a lot more paperwork to you, but we kind of wanted to demonstrate the fact that we've done the really hard work behind the scenes to make sure that we've really carefully sourced all the ingredients. So, you know, why not pass on that confidence to the customer? And we just long for a place, I guess, where you can go and know that you don't kind of almost have to be watching your back. Because I don't know if you've all had this feeling when you go in supermarkets, and of course, like the marketing stuff around UPF and all of that, you know, ultra processed food, if you're not already familiar with that, is putting it front and center right now. But it's so scary, I think, when you go, whether you're buying like pet food or whatever you're buying, when you go around the supermarket, you're like, what does this actually have in it? And what did they not need to declare because it was so-called clean label stuff? And yeah, you just feel like it's almost like it's all against you, and you're only going to find, like, you know, a small handful of products that are actually going to be, you know, for you and made to nourish you. And so we're hoping to build a completely different experience there in Neath Town Centre, you know, especially with, I think one of the, I guess, moments that happened when, you know, the town was kind of all sad about the fact that Marks and Spencers were leaving the town, and of course people were going to miss the food and stuff. Regardless of what you think about the quality of Mark's food, you know, I have my opinions, I'm not going to state them, but the point is that it, for a lot of people in Neath, that represented like access to some finer food, and you know, that was going, and people were really sad about that. And I think it made me realize, well, someone needs to do something about this. I mean, you know, we can do something entirely different again to what Mark's offers, but nevertheless, there's something for the people in this town, right? I didn't think it was going to be me, if I'm honest with you. I didn't really want to do it initially, but weirdly, I was actually struggling to sleep because I had the you know, all the ideas kind of pacing around my head about it. And I actually did reach out to one of our great organic suppliers, who are called Watson and Pratt's, based up in Lampeter, and said, guys, will you come and, you know, because they've opened a couple of like small organic grocery stores as well, you know, in Aberystwyth and in Lampeter. And I was like, you know, will you guys come and do one in Neath? And Ben there was kind of like, well, you should do it. You know, and they were amazing. Like they invited me up and they gave me like, we'd already had a tour when we opened the bakery because they showed us their bakery side, but he kind of opened up everything to me and showed me around how they do the whole gambit. And it's really cool to have that support. But yeah, in the end, it looks like it's gonna be us pushing forward for that. So I've kind of slowly been peeling back away from my responsibilities at the bakery, handing those over, so it kind of frees me up for this project. But yeah, I could probably waffle on a lot, so I don't want to do that. But exciting times, because I think I just want to emphasize, like, we are really keen to bring local produce in there. Now, I think Wales has got some amazing delicatessen and fine food options already, and we're not going to struggle in terms of being able to fill the shelves with some of that stuff. But I would love it if, like, you know, we could say the farms, you know, are, you know, 10, 15, 20 miles away. You know, that would be awesome. And as for like the organic side of things, we will definitely prefer organic produce, but I think when we know things are being done well, and even if it's not, you know, like to the certified standard, but they're being done really well, you know, we'd be really supportive of putting that on our shelves too, right? So we don't want to kind of create an unnecessary barrier.
Super. Well, fantastic to meet you. Thank you for coming along. That sounds really, really exciting and something to definitely talk more about. Similar to what Nicola had said around that balance between organic and local, coming down in favour of local, as long as, you know, there's some quality standards in place and things are done as nature friendly as possible, I suppose. But yeah, bringing local produce into the centre of Neath, and sounds like real commitment from your family business towards that. So really great to have you in the meeting, and that in itself represents great opportunities for local producers, local growers, and, you know, potentially a real hub for this kind of local good food movement.
Yeah, definitely. And if I may add just one more thing, like, you know, just being completely frank as well, we really want people to, you know, the workers at the deli, we want them to be like really passionate about food. Like for us, it'll have to be like it is a passion of theirs, and that they will be able to speak passionately about where the produce comes from, etc., and kind of what it means to them in their own life, right? So I guess being able to connect with this like-minded group, you know, I hope that will also help with, you know, providing the right network opportunities as well, and that, you know, might result in, you know, employment opportunities and such. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Very exciting. Yeah, and exactly as you say, they're testament to the power of connecting with like-minded, you know, bubble of passion locally, and how we can connect all those dots. Brilliant. Yeah, that's really exciting. Thanks for sharing. Right, we have not yet heard from Councillor Sarah Thomas. Would you like to say hello?
Hi, so I'm Councillor Sarah Thomas. I represent Gwauncaigh Gwyn and Lower Burnham at both Neath Talbot and on the Community Council. And I'm also a board member at Canolfan Mari, who I think you've already heard from tonight. So I used to get involved with the Carmarthenshire food partnership. So I do know a little bit about this, but I'm purely because I'm interested as a councillor.
Brilliant. Yeah, great to have you on the call, and do stay connected. And Boyd Cigar in Carmarthenshire is a great example of a food partnership that's quite a long, you know, way ahead of where we are here in Neath Talbot at the moment. And in Carmarthenshire, there's again great stuff we can look at and learn from. They're lucky enough to have a county farm that is now becoming a hub for good food growing and lots of things like that. So part of our role For the Region, we hope, is to connect good practice across the food partnerships in our region and beyond. And Jessie was offering site visits to Kaitan, but I'm sure there are also interesting places we could go and visit in Carmarthenshire, not least Casa Howell, one of our partners, obviously would be open to showing people around their huge facilities as a major regional distributor. And they are another real advocate for local sourcing, and a good partner to have in this space as well. So yeah, welcome. Thanks for being here. And there were a couple of others who haven't yet spoken. Sonia, have we heard from you?
No, but Anna has said a lot about Canolfan Mari, and Sarah's also chipped in, who's my council colleague in Gwauncaigh Gwyn and the Amman Valley in general. And we're all trying to work closely together. What we really want to do is try and link up various community projects in the valley, but also we'd love to through the partnership to link in, because we're setting up a food co-op and a pantry. We'd love to link in with other suppliers, but also particularly suppliers of bulk meat, in terms of growers, producers of bulk meat, not warehouses so much, but we want to link people in with meat direct from farms and things like that. A lot of the places doing it online sell the normal cuts, and you know, one of my
Oh, I've lost your connection there, Sonia. Yeah, I think we've lost Sonia's connection temporarily, but I did hear your interest in locally produced meat and that sort of farm assured and different cuts of meat is, I think, what you were going to say. Thanks very much. Sorry, we've lost you. Amy, would you like to say hello? I know we heard from Chloe from the Building Blocks Family Centre.
Hi, yes, apologies, I haven't got a camera, but yeah, as Chloe said, we're just really interested in how the partnership can help us, well, teach us, so we can pass that on to the kids in the community that come to us and the food bank too. So yeah.
Yeah, really good. And I think my colleague Phil has mentioned in the chat that he would welcome you guys to reach out to him about your ideas at the Family Centre, and perhaps he can support. And we had another Chris.
Yeah, just Chris, and I don't think Phil has it. Did Phil?
Oh, and then I'll come to Phil. Yeah, good point. Chris, you've just joined. Is he there? Or is he gone again? Oh, he's gone again, I think. Oh, are you there, Chris?
He's unmuted.
Nope. All right, we can't hear you, I'm afraid. Let me invite Phil to say hello.
Hello. So yeah, well, I was really pleased to sort of get involved with For the Region a year ago now, to work with them on developing this Neath Talbot food partnership, because well, I love food. So some would actually say perhaps a little bit too much, but the other thing that has been really enjoyable over this last year is working with community groups, and particularly around community growing, which is something that I've been involved with and supported, particularly in the Swansea area for quite a number of years now. So it was really good to travel around Neath Talbot, up the various valleys, down the various valleys, linking up with and offering a little bit of support where we could to those community growing projects, which are flourishing. There's a number of new projects being becoming established over the last year or so, and others that are developing in really interesting ways. And one of the nice things that we were able to do was support a couple of community growing networking events. So Riverside and Glantowy Riverside Park and Skewen Community Garden both hosted a get together, which was really great to do that. And I think there's a little bit of appetite this year to see that happen again, you know, with perhaps other gardens and growing projects welcoming others to come along and to share skills and knowledge and enthusiasm for growing. And I think, you know, community growing isn't going to in itself solve the issues that we face around the unsustainable food systems that we have, not just in Neath Talbot but across Wales and indeed across the world. However, you know, that kind of passion that you often see within community projects is something that can really get people of all ages, of all interests, really actively, more actively involved in discussing and perhaps actually producing food. And that's a really good starting point, you know, in terms of behavior change and people trying to influence each other and get more actively involved in the kind of changes that we want to see. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this next year now, where we might sort of build on things that we've managed to achieve over the last 12 months, but also maybe explore some new things as well, some new activities. And that kind of really comes from the partnership itself and the ideas that people across the partnership might have.
Thank you, Phil. Great. Chris, can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thanks, Dawn. Yeah, yeah, I'm Chris Day. Yep. So just come along to see what's going on and hear people's stories. Bit of an update. Nothing to sort of to say about that I've been doing particularly exciting. So interesting to hear other people's stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And Chris was another member of the team going out and talking to some of the community growing projects that the partnership supported over the last year. So really active in sharing his knowledge and experience with community gardens, and very much, very much appreciate your input here. Right, thank you everyone for those updates and introductions. Really useful insight, and great to hear about some of those things that we hadn't come across before. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about the cross-sector food strategy, and I'm going to share my screen now and hope that you can see the document, but also if it's easier, I did share a link in the chat to this PDF, so you could look at it that way. I think what I'd like to do is talk through this and encourage everyone on the call to just make a couple of notes while I'm talking, or make a couple of notes for yourselves as we go through, so that we can come into a bit of discussion and get any input, feedback, agreement on certain points. Where is the interest of the group in terms of forward-looking priorities? Where does some of your activity perhaps fit into this strategy, and where have we forgotten, or where are our blind spots in drafting this strategy, or anything else that should be added? So I know that's a lot, but I'd like to just present where we'd got to with this cross-sector food strategy. As I said earlier in the call, this was part of what we were asked to deliver for the council in the last budget, in the last period of work for them, which came to an end in March 24. So this draft food strategy was created out of all the conversations and engagement that we had over the last year. And there is an aspiration within some parts of the council that the food strategy could be formally adopted by the council, or it could be adopted by organisations across the county. But we would like to use this as an engagement tool and as a document that could be a working document for this group in terms of thinking about what our objectives are and where we should be working collectively to make the most difference to the Neath Talbot food system. And we've adopted the structure and framework of the Sustainable Food Places Network. Some of the food partnerships across Wales are already members of Sustainable Food Places, which is a UK-wide network. And it may be something that this group aspires to in the future, but it certainly provides a useful framework, even if we're not yet members, to guide our thinking and make sure that we are acting in a kind of whole system way. So those 6 pillars: good governance, good food movement, food fairness, sustainable food economy, catering and procurement, and nature-friendly farming. Obviously, there's huge overlap between all of those things, but we think it's a useful framework because it's as much about that good food movement and building public awareness and support for local, sustainable, healthy food, and creating active food citizens across Neath Talbot, as it is about the business and economic angle. You know, catering and procurement represent a great opportunity for our local supply chains. And how can we get more locally produced food onto the public plate? And then sustainable food economy really thinks about what are we doing to create and support businesses in the food sector. And we've heard some great input already today from businesses locally that really would like to source more food locally. How can we connect the dots between hospitality and retail businesses and local food producers and growers? And of course, all of this underpinned by some really strong values around food fairness and affordability and access to healthy, local, sustainable and affordable food, and the relationship with health inequality and diet-related ill health, but also tackling the climate and nature emergencies through sustainable food and farming. And that's a really underpinning value around the sustainability of our food supply chains. So the good governance pillar, I suppose, is also particularly thinking about this partnership, how we make sure we've got an effective steering group and that we are representative of all sectors of the community and the sector, and demonstrating good collaboration and good governance as a partnership. So under each of these pillars, we've tried to draw out a few actions and objectives. And I wonder if we consider these page by page. But good governance, establishing a management group or steering group. We welcome expressions of interest from anyone here today who would like to be actively involved in a kind of steering group capacity. I think what we're looking at is a steering group as a kind of management committee, but then meetings like this, which are broader and more inclusive, and offer the opportunity for people to dip in and out depending on what interests you. So figuring out where you want to be involved is one of the things for your to-do list. But we want a broad and representative group, so we would welcome support to ensure that we're reaching out to harder to engage stakeholders. Farmers across Neath Talbot would be a key audience that we'd like to involve in the steering group, but also people representing more deprived communities and ethnically diverse groups as well. So how we can be diverse and inclusive and have a strong network with lots of different opportunities for people to be involved, and then building those strategic relationships with key organisations. The health board being one of those that we would like to get good engagement from. Good food movement is about building support and awareness around these issues for people, citizens across Neath Talbot. I think we started some really good community engagement last year. We had lots of conversations around the Neath Food Festival and other local events. But it really is about connecting all those who do care about where their food comes from. Chris, you were making the point about your family's journey, learning journey around the health of your food and your own health. And I think that is a key entry point for a lot of local people. And that was certainly what we picked up on in our community engagement last year, that lots of people are worried about ultra processed food. Lots of people are worried about pesticides and chemicals on their food. So wanting to make sure that their own health and their family's health is well protected, well looked after, is sort of an entry point into locally grown, organic or locally sourced food. But building that movement, as well as engaging with schools and potentially developing that local food charter, and supporting food growing in all sorts of community and public spaces, and supporting those existing projects as well as helping other projects to get started, so that people have that hands-on relationship to where their food comes from. I would love to see any thoughts from the room, reflections on any of those. Where have we missed something? Anything to say on either good governance or good food movement in the room? I'm happy to just continue spinning through, but I know it's a lot of talking, so I'm just going to pause now and then to see if there are any comments. And it may be that actually everyone needs time to digest some of this content.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth just saying that, you know, on the good food movement, it is definitely, I think, something that we're conscious of, especially for the Delhi project, that, you know, what we would like to do is actually through that, you know, kind of use it as a vehicle to provide some level of education. I know you have to be careful with that, right? Because of obviously the crossover with you becoming like giving health advice and that kind of thing. But I think if you do it wisely, you can give an option to people to actually say, you know, here's how you can combine these ingredients to make this for yourself at home, or, you know, and I guess just making people realize where does stuff come from, because I know, like, for us on this call, a lot of us being foodies already, we're gonna know a lot of this stuff, but you know, a lot of people like a lot of people we find that come in the bakery, for example, I mean, a lot of them don't even know how butter is made, you know. So it's stuff like this where, you know, especially because we'll be producing some food on site. And I guess that's what's been lovely about the bakery, because it's like an open plan bakery and you can just see everything happening in front of you, is it's providing, it's like almost eye-opening for people. It's like, oh, flip, so that's how it's done. And I think we almost long to see a bit of that in the deli too, right? So where people will see, you know, whether it's some soup thing being made, or whether it is, you know, some bit of charcuterie that's been made, or all the way some, you know, meat is being cured and like in salt, and people will be like, you know, that stuff will be happening there, and they'll be like, oh, okay, wow. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity for businesses to help facilitate some of that.
Yes, good thoughts. Thanks, Chris. Any other comments on either of these two strands? Oh, I'm not sure if there's somebody saying something, but I'll move on.
My only
Oh,
sorry,
Lisa.
my only comment would be around health and public health, and there isn't representation at the moment, and I don't know how successful you've been in getting representation up until now. But I think, you know, we've heard health mentioned so many times already tonight, and it is particularly important to what we're talking about. So I think if we can engage with the local health board and potentially tap into any funding they may have as well for these sorts of projects, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really important. We have had an outreach from Beth and I can't remember her colleague's name, who are responsible for something called the whole system approach to healthy weight within the local health board. So we are working on that and hope to have their involvement going forward. And yeah, I agree. Let's make sure we're well represented on health. Too often I think the links aren't drawn within the health system about the actual importance of what people are eating, and we live in a very sort of medicalized, pharmaceuticalized society, don't we? But I think there is an increasing understanding among health professionals that all of these things are linked. So yeah, building that connection I think is important. Okay, thank you for that. On to the next two pillars, food fairness and sustainable food economy. So food fairness is represented on this call. We've heard from some of the community projects and Carnarvon Mardy with your food hub and those sorts of projects, and indeed the family centre. So working to ensure that everyone has access to healthy, local, sustainable and affordable food, tackling food poverty, health inequality and diet related ill health. So what we've proposed as the sort of priorities for action under this theme are to work together to increase access to locally grown food in all communities, for example, by identifying partners to create food hubs, establishing or developing community growing projects, and supporting food businesses within the community, and addressing transport barriers which hold people back from potentially accessing growing sites. We've got a huge number of people somehow jumping into the waiting room, Zoe, all of a sudden. Shall I let them in? It's a little bit strange halfway through a call to have a lot of people jumping in.
And they're not names I recognise. Just give me 2 secs.
I don't know about others, but like the link I had was an old one. I didn't get the updated link today, so it took me a little while to sort of get it and join.
Dawn, excuse me, I'm sorry to butt in, but I'm an engineer. I work on software and networking, stuff like this. You could be Zoom bombed. Someone might have found the link somehow, and it's just random people trying to log in, or it could even be bots. So so you might want to vet them before you let them in, because otherwise they'll come in, show us a load of porn, and shout and swear.
Yeah, I'm going to ignore
Zoom bombing, they call it.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, because there's suddenly, 10, 12 people in the waiting room all of a sudden. That's odd. So I'm going to ignore that.
Especially if you don't recognize their names.
Yeah, which we don't. So let's ignore that for now. Thanks. Good, good advice, I think. Okay, improving access to cooking skills, working with schools, families and children. And again, that link with public health is mentioned there. So food fairness, obviously a key priority for many in the room. Would anyone like to reflect on those actions as listed there? Flag up anything under this theme of food fairness? Oh, Phil.
Yeah, I would just be interested to know from those that are involved in food banks or food pantries and those kinds of projects, whether you find it easy enough to access the funding, Welsh Government funding that comes through the local authority, and whether that funding does, help towards most of the things that you need, or if there are certain gaps. I'm particularly thinking about the fact that we know that we've got some capital funding that we're going to be able to access, and I'm not sure whether that funding that you get for tackling food poverty from Welsh Government does support capital costs and things like that. Is there an issue around there? I'm just wondering.
But it is certainly a consideration, if not for now, take away. Anna.
Hiya. Yeah, certainly, from our point of view, I mean, I was sort of new to everything when I met Philip last year, and what, certainly what we were able to get funding for. It depends where you are on your sort of journey, really, isn't it? In terms of what your setup is and stuff, isn't it? Small scale or middle scale, or, we're sort of like a year in now, got good results from, things we'd had. So yeah, I think it just depends really, doesn't it? Maybe we can share some thoughts on that going forward, isn't it, of where we are on the scale of things.
From sort of earlier conversations, there seems to be quite an appetite for activities with young people and teaching people about food, and maybe that's
the trouble is, I think it's capital funding, so we need to get the criteria of what that means.
Yeah, because everyone's going to be at a different scale of what they've got on offer, what they can offer, what you can make use of, what resources you've got currently in moving forward. It's kind of, it's difficult, and what space they've got, what they're able to get their hands on.
Yes.
And
I
it's
think
one
the
thing
other
having capital funds to buy equipment or
Yeah.
materials or something like that, but you've then got to have people who are able to make use of those things. Sorry, Lisa.
Yeah. So it's
No,
getting the balance, isn't it? Yeah.
I was just going to say, I mean, I know it's capital funding, but there's an awful lot in the strategy. Is it worth just identifying the areas that could be eligible from within the strategy for capital funding and then prioritising? Because I think there's a huge amount on you, and I suppose it's about us being smart about what we want to achieve over the next, say, 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah, good shout. Yeah, I think that's right. There'll be certain points in this strategy that would potentially fit with or benefit from some capital funds.
And it's about proving your sustainability as well, isn't it? Through what you're asking for, and you'd have to sort of be so critical in your planning, really, wouldn't you? You know?
Yeah, you know, there's obviously a lot more in this cross-sector food strategy than is immediately deliverable, but also one of the key points is that this is a cross-sector food strategy, not just for what this group, this steering group, this board can do, but what the wider system is achieving. And so that's where we've kind of got to pull in the threads. What are businesses already doing? And we've heard from some great examples. What is the health board doing? The health board is obviously responsible for some of these potential actions. And the education system, you know, are we engaged with schools? And so it's not all for us to deliver, but hopefully it's for us to kind of hold as a collaborative strategy and flag up who's doing what. And yeah, it's very much a shared strategy. And hopefully
I ask as well?
Council activities. Yeah, Lisa. And then Sarah.
I know obviously there are these partnership groups in a number of local authorities. Are they further ahead than Neath Talbot? I'm just thinking about what have they spent any capital funding on? Is there potential to pool resources? Are there things that have worked well elsewhere? Are there lessons to be learned about perhaps what not to spend the capital finance on? Where it's worked best? I just think we can probably learn lessons from elsewhere.
Yeah, good. And yes, let's do that. Let's see what examples we can find, and also all the local food partnerships will have this 13,000 for this year from Welsh Government, and so I agree, let's keep our ears open, and we are connected particularly in our region with what else is happening, so we'll see we can learn from those. Sarah.
Thanks. Yeah, so you mentioned the NHS. So I mean, I know the sort of nutrition department used to send out some really good recipe cards and stuff, and Canolfan Mardi used to include those. So we'd look to see if we had the ingredients for them. We'd include recipe cards in food boxes and so on. So you know, there are ways of linking up these services that really wouldn't cost them any more money than it already does because they already send them out. So
yeah, that's key, isn't it? Like trying to cut down on the duplication of things and use each other's resources.
That's why I mentioned the food poverty funding that comes every year from Welsh Government, because you know, we want to maximise benefits and do things complementary rather than duplicating. So you know, it's kind of like, if we've got a bit of money, is there value in us considering, you know, the food poverty agenda and supporting food banks and so on, or is that already covered? You know, that's the kind of thing that it'd be useful to sort of get a sense from people like you, Anna, and you know, the others that were on the call earlier as well, from the family centre and so on.
Yeah,
good.
We did receive the food poverty grant last year, and we obviously used that in a mixture of different ways, supporting our warm hub, supporting the garden, having some capital stuff out of that as well, you know. And obviously we don't know anything for the next coming year, but it did work well in, you know, many of our projects up here, you know. and we've
Yeah.
just had I don't know if it's the same, but we've had a little bit now for the like a warm welcome space for this coming winter as well, but not capital, just sort of setting up the same as what we've done before, you know. Like I said, a lot of that is based on us having a lot of our resources here ready to build on, you know, and it would be hard for other places without cafes and, you know, kitchens and growing space. I mean, so it's, yeah, it depends where you are on your journey, isn't it?
Yes, and I think, Phil, that we need to connect with whoever it is, perhaps in Suzette's team, in the council who's managing the food poverty funding, because actually that is a much higher budget than the food partnerships funding. So looking for commonality and like shared priorities and see what they're thinking for this year's funding. Okay, thank you. Sustainable food economy. There has been quite a lot of talk already in the group about the need to connect local producers with the retail and hospitality outlets that would like greater local supply chains. Colleagues on the call may be aware that one of the projects last year was the creation of the Neath Talbot Local Food Guide. That was originally envisaged as a directory, but actually because of the lack of vegetable growing and very few genuinely local food producers, it morphed into a sort of more holistic guide to local and sustainable food. But it is still an objective, I think, to map and build that directory and keep a live list of who are those good local food producers, growers, farm shops, food hubs, etc. So what we do with that idea this year is open to discussion. We've mentioned farmers a few times. The partnership has connected with some local beef farmers, beef and dairy. And there is one vegetable grower, William from Black Mountain Itals, who is connected. But, you know, no farmers, no food. So as much as we can have strong representation from community food and potentially local businesses, we do feel that need to connect with kind of real farmers as well. Should we be running events? How can we support small suppliers and new businesses? And how can public sector organisations support local supply chains? Would anyone like to share any thoughts around this pillar?
Yeah, just to say, I think that map, it would be of massive interest. I do remember someone reaching out to us about being included in something. I didn't ever get to see like an end result. I'm not sure if there was something that was published, or is that kind of what you were hinting at, that it's kind of still in the works?
It's a book, it's printed. Zoe's got a copy there. I don't know if you can see Zoe on the screen, you might have to talk. Oh, and Phil's got something else. Oh yeah, we've got all the books.
Here it is. It's in English and Welsh.
Yeah, so it's a printed book.
I can drop
Chris.
some off to you, Chris, if you like.
Nice, yeah, if it's not a problem.
No props.
And those businesses that did come back to us were featured in there, but there are lots more stories to tell. And it's an opportunity for the year ahead, particularly at the Neath Food and Drink Festival. We'd like to be giving these books out and getting them into people's hands. But we'll get some to you as a priority.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely, you know, connecting in with what you are planning to do in Neath, Chris, and seeing where the connections are to perhaps, you know, support the launch of the deli and your supply chain. Yeah, I think there's some great opportunities there. So
yeah, 100%. That's great.
Yeah, super. The final two pillars, we'll just cover these off quite quickly. the catering and procurement piece, just to flag up a piece of work that For the Region has been undertaking on behalf of the Public Services Board in NPT and in Swansea, is we call it the Public Plate Procurement Learning Journey. So we have been convening people from large organisations in Neath, Talbot and Swansea to try and unpick some of the barriers about getting local food onto the public plate, particularly, for example, in schools and colleges, but also talking to the health board and the council and others. So that is a sort of ongoing project, hopefully, with the public services boards, but really trying to understand and address the barriers and create more demand for local and sustainable food. Great opportunities around partnership with Casa Howell. And in Neath Talbot, there's a business called Slice and Dice as well. And we would like to reach out to them and get them involved, because they could offer a great route to market for some local veg growers or farmers thinking of getting into vegetable growing. And Slice and Dice buy a lot of veg and then chop it all up and I think freeze it, or it goes into ready, into the catering supply chain. So they'd be a great partner. The conversations around catering and procurement is, yes, we'd love to see more local food on the public plate, but if all of the schools in Neath Talbot turned around tomorrow and said, yes, we'd like local food, there isn't enough. It's not being grown. So at the same time as growing the demands and getting organisations to commit to more local food on their menus, at the same time we've got to grow the supply, and that's, those two things need to grow, and it's probably like a 5-year project, but great shared ambition there about and lots of organisations working on this across Wales. Actually, there's some really interesting stuff about local veg in schools, and some great pilot projects, so connecting in with all of that. And then nature-friendly farming, it's already been flagged up on this call, the sort of somehow problematic priority for some around organic, and not many are certified organic, but definitely trying to bring everyone with us in the move towards more nature-friendly farming. We talked about allotments earlier on. Are people on allotments embracing nature-friendly farming techniques, or could they be brought along on that journey, as well as, of course, more traditional farmers, supporting community-supported agriculture as a model to develop in the area. And then there's this thing about jobs and skills as well, isn't there? Huge jobs in food growing and other aspects of the food system. So working with the college potentially to understand and highlight those career pathways in sustainable food. And then creating greater awareness of all the intersecting issues relating to food, farming, soil health, gut health, and climate and nature emergencies, and supporting and enabling behaviour change. Yes, any thoughts on any of these? Yes, Phil.
Yeah, I think on the education side and things like this, not necessarily just the formal education, it is, I guess, about drawing on the skills far and wide, whether it be to do with community growing and things like that. Or I was just wondering, like Chris, with the bakery, whether you have the capacity or the interest in sometimes putting on workshop activities or that kind of thing, or having school visits and things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting you mention it. There was one school which was really nice actually that reached out to us. It was actually a school in Swansea, a special needs school, and I do forget the name of it right now, but it was based in Morriston area. They actually asked if we would go, first of all, visit a classroom and just talk to a group of students about bread making in general, because they'd been trying to make bread in the classroom. And then they brought the whole class along to the bakery on another day, and got, so they were able to see it all. And that was a really lovely experience. So yeah, I would like really be supportive of things like that. I think it's so great for kids to see that. And I was really impressed actually that I kind of felt like this school were making like inroads and progress in that area of food, probably like way more than what I've seen in other schools. So yeah, apparently they used to get someone in from Big Loaf Fabricator, so it was actually Warburton's. Apparently there was someone who used to come from there and talk to them about bread making. But I was really pleased that they decided then they would, search out for a more local artisan bakery to talk about it. So yeah.
Good. Yeah. Let's keep that sort of connection going. That sounds brilliant. Anna.
We're just going to try over summer with various little bits of funding we've had to do, because we've got the growing garden, the Banwyn Gardens. We're going to try like a field to fork challenge, where we'll be taking groups of young people up to the garden. Charles do like a tour with them. They'll be there a while learning about that, and then harvesting the food and then bringing it back here to our community cafe, and then seeing and having a bit of a challenge about what they could do with the food. Because it's all well and good, like knowing the first bits of it, but it's like, what can they actually do with a courgette and trying to fill, so it's just a bit of fun really, but obviously engaging with them in a fun way over the summer holidays. So yeah.
Great.
Well done. It's good.
Been lovely to see the results of that.
Yeah.
Do share that with us. Neil, I think you had unmuted there as well.
Yeah, well, it seemed perhaps less relevant after I thought about it, but I'll mention it anyway. It was sort of following on from what Chris had said about the megacorp bakers like Warburton's and Hovis and all that. A friend of mine is a project manager, and he was involved in the construction of a bakery, well, a factory in Roses is a bakery. That's a factory. Oh God, what is it? In Van Hamlet, possibly the one that they came from. And he pointed out that all the major bakers, Hovis and all this, they all make their bread in that same factory. Now you could say that the process, well, the machinery can be shared. I mean, in some ways that's environmentally better, less resources and all that for the same production. But yeah, it did strike me as ironic that they make great sort of play on their sort of unique branding and then have it made in exactly the same. Yeah, not that I would eat that bread. I haven't eaten that sort of bread for decades. In fact, I'm a regular in Chris's bakery, well, in Rose's bakery.
Yes, yeah, great to have local real bread bakeries represented in the group. We've got Baglan Bakery and Rose's Bakery on the call, so completely agree that mass-produced stuff is just not real bread.
No, plastic bread. I remember a friend of mine saying, and this must be easily 10 years ago, he said, have you seen that new stuff they're selling in, well, I won't say where, shouldn't be partisan. He said, they got long life bread. He said, what must they be putting in it to make it last that long? I'm afraid to eat it. Yeah.
Right.
No, it's really relevant though, isn't it, to that topic, because that's the journey people need to go on, isn't it? I know, I guess for us, when you surround yourself with that information and those kind of people, you kind of get used to that, hearing that, and you just think that's normal, but there's still so many people who haven't even considered that, right? And the impact.
And that's the key thing about health inequality, isn't it? And so many communities haven't got access to any options. They just got the cheap long life stuff.
Well, there is some benefit to that, because you can't, I as a card carrying tree hugger, I don't want to sort of like advocate for chemical foods, but of course botulism and botrytis and things like that are lethal to humans, and they're perfectly organic. So the preservatives and antifungal sort of chemical manufactured artificial chemicals save lives. So they're not organic, but just because it's organic, that doesn't mean to say it's not lethal. It's not toxic. dysentery is organic.
Oh, thanks, Neil. Martin, did you want to come in?
Yeah, so just quickly, I mean, obviously, yeah, it's with the bigger bakeries as well, it'll be efficient to all in one place, but then it's not very resilient countrywide, you know, if that one
Yeah.
bakery gets taken out, that's a lot of bread they can't obviously make and
That's a very
distribute.
good point. I didn't think of that.
Yes. Yeah, and a resilient local food system is a key objective, I think, isn't it? You never know. All we can be sure of is that there are going to be crises and disasters affecting our supply chains over the next 10 years, and we don't know what those are going to be and where they're going to come from. But a key driver for all of this work, I think, is resilience and the ability to feed ourselves here in Neath, Talbot and South West Wales when those global supply chains get disrupted, as I think they inevitably will. Thanks for your input into the strategy. I suggest we keep that as a living document, that we refer back to it, that we use it and update it. And I note Lisa's good idea about looking through that and seeing where those opportunities are to perhaps prioritise our activity and our funding for the year ahead. I know we're running over time because we were so rudely interrupted earlier in the call, but I'll just take a couple of minutes to say something about the Neath Food and Drink Festival that's coming up on the 5th and 6th of
Excuse me a
October.
sec, Dawn. Sorry for interrupting, but there was one last thing I wanted to mention. You know, I wanted to wait until you rounded it up for reasons that'll become obvious. I gather that there's a lot here in terms of what you call it, behavior change, behavior modification, all that. And I mean, some of it is resources. You know, you've got to have an allotment. It's all very well wanting a garden and having the motivation, but you've got to. But setting that to one side, there's in terms of motivating people to do it. I'm not aware. It may be worth making a note of the concept of nudge psychology. You may have heard of it. The government's official sort of group for this is called the Behavioural Insights Unit. Now, the idea of nudge psychology is that instead of telling someone, what they should be doing, or you should be sort of, I don't know, exercising for longevity, for quality of life and all that. Everyone knows, or stop smoking. Everyone knows that. You're not telling them anything they don't already know. But so nudge psychology is, does away with this concept of effectively lecturing them, telling them what they should be doing, but making it easy for them to choose the right thing to do. Now, I know that it drives me mental. There are a lot of critics who call it, sort of like, sort of government mind control and things like that. But yeah, so there are critics of it. But the idea is that you're not controlling people. You're merely making it easy for them, not necessarily harder to do the wrong stuff, but just easier to do the right stuff. I mean, a simple example would be just putting a bike lane in. You're not telling people to ride a bike. You're not banning them from driving a car, but you're making it easier if they choose to ride the bike.
And it's really relevant when it comes to food, isn't it? And making those healthy, sustainable choices more accessible and easier for people.
Well, if we filled all the avenues with apple trees, I dare say people's sort of fruit intake would go up massively, and you wouldn't have to force them.
Yeah, good point. Thank you for that. Martin.
Just quickly, I wanted to throw an idea out there, essentially. Although coming back onto what Neil was just saying, we've got a group in Swansea who go around collecting apples that are unpicked. Is it Coitha Cymru or something? Anyway, there's a group sorry, there's a group in Swansea which do that. So perhaps there could be a similar one in Neath Way. Essentially, what I wanted to mention again, kind of tied into the resilience side of thing. So obviously, we're looking to source food as locally as possible, but whilst maybe we can't do that, or we haven't got the capacity to do that for our needs at the moment, we can look obviously just slightly further afield, but within Wales. So there was a group, or there is a group called Canon Cymru Network, and they're based along the Heart of Wales line. And one of their ideas was to have small food growing along the Heart of Wales line, which could then be transported quite short distance locally to the railway line, and then the railway could then transport that into our cities, either obviously south to Swansea and Cardiff, or north to I guess Wrexham kind of way, but or Shrewsbury. But anyway, so don't know whether we can link in with them somehow, and that's just an idea I wanted to throw out there. So
thank you. Yes, that's interesting. And we are well connected with the Heart of Wales Line Community Rail Partnership, so we'll try and draw in some of those threads. Thank you for that. I won't keep you much longer, but on the 5th and 6th of October, this group, the Food Partnership, has the opportunity to host a few activities in the main marquee as part of the Neath Food and Drink Festival. So businesses in the room, I'm hoping, will be involved in the Neath Food and Drink Festival as stall holders on the day. And there's also the opportunity for us to do some community engagement and business engagement activities in the marquee. So I think we need a bit more time for discussion on that. But last year we had some of the community organisations joined us in the tent, and we had some nice food information and engagement activities going on. Kids could plant some seeds. We had a kind of treasure hunt that took kids and families running around Neath Town Centre and into the market to find clues, and then come back and get a goodie bag which included some locally sourced biscuits and other items. So we did loads of really fun activities. Zoe dressed up as a tomato and spoke to local people. We had a survey asking people about their food choices. This year, Laura from the Town Centres team has got some funding, so there are some few specific things. One of which will be inviting food and drink businesses to come to an online marketing workshop in the run-up to the food festival, and to attend what they're calling a food and drink influencer session in the marquee. So there's that bit strand about helping businesses with their marketing, but there's also the aspiration that we would host a hospitality roundtable, so bring together local hospitality businesses in Neath and the county to talk about local sourcing. And then what shall we do in the marquee on the 2 days of the event? And would colleagues like to have a table in there, or host something, or do a talk, or do a bit of community engagement with us? So we're really open to ideas. Any thoughts for those who were involved last year, if you thought that worked well, and what you'd like to see this year? So something to think about. Phil, I noticed that you unmuted, so I was hoping.
I was just going to say that that weekend, for people like, say, Chris and other producers and bakers and so on, is a very busy weekend anyway, because you know you're talking about thousands of people in the centre of Neath, and you're either got a shop or you've got a stall, a temporary stall there for the event. What we maybe need to do is communicate with some of those great producers to see if they can really double up on their staffing over that weekend, so that in as well as doing all the selling and production that they need to do over that weekend, to maybe see if they can also have a little bit of capacity to help us. For example, Chris coming for a 10-minute talk to people in the marquee, even though you've got a lot of time and pressure on doing stuff in the shop, you know. So we need to communicate with a number of people like that to see if they can just go that extra mile during that weekend, if possible.
Yes,
yeah, well, that idea. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Rosa was close to, in the end, we decided not to go ahead with it just because it was a little bit of an inconvenience getting there, but we were invited to kind of do a presentation down in the Latitude Festival, which is kind of down like in England way, and they kind of do some like food presentations, and the Real Bread campaign we're interested in having Rosa do something there. it would be really cool if there could be something like that, you know, some kind of bread demo. But I think that the challenge with stuff like that is like obviously equipment, and then you know whether you have an oven and whether you can actually make it kind of work so that people can kind of take part and then maybe get something out of it too. But you know, we can think about it, see if there's any possibility or practicality or something like that. It could be very fun.
Yeah, all right, well, we'll definitely reconnect around some of that between now and early October. We're sort of entering into silly season, aren't we, as it comes to the end of July, and lots of people have annual leave in August, but we will be continuing to kind of put plans together. So we'll be reaching out to colleagues from this call and others that we've engaged with already through the partnership to put a plan in place. So if colleagues have ideas or suggestions to make, or would like to offer their support for the kind of marquee at the Food and Drink Festival, or for any of the things we've talked about, then let's keep in touch. I am mindful of time, but I have shared a link in the chat, and I would really appreciate if colleagues would put the date of 20th of September in your diaries as well. That's a Friday, and that is the date of It's Your Neath Talbot, which is a For the Region event, a cross-sector discussion forum. Food and farming is very likely to be one of the topics for discussion at that event, but it will be a whole system coming together of people, businesses, organisations and community groups from across the county, talking about all things Neath Talbot and what ideas and challenges and suggestions everybody has in a whole range of different topic areas. And it's really timely in Neath Talbot, not least because of all the announcements around the steelworks and sort of the future identity of the county and job opportunities and career pathways for people, and lots of challenges and opportunities around transport, well-being and business development. So please come along to that, and we may reach out to you to be involved in some of the co-design of that event as well. But that's going to be a really brilliant day, and we'd love to see as many of you there as possible, and you'll start to see some marketing and communications for that event over the next couple of weeks. So please do share and encourage people to come, and come back to us if you've got any questions. But I've shared the Eventbrite link, which is just some basic information as a starting point. But at least if you register on that, you know you'll be kept informed. Really great meeting though, lovely to have updates from everybody. I hope it's been interesting for others, and a really an example of the value of connecting with like-minded folk and sharing updates from across the local food system. And we'll keep in touch, and we'll convene another one of these meetings probably just after the summer holiday. But we'll keep in touch by email in the meantime. So thanks all for coming along and giving up your evening. I think we've got a lot to do, and we're really looking forward to working with you all to take this agenda forward.
Thanks all. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you
coming. Have a
all.
good evening.
Good evening.
Bye.
Okay.